Hello and welcome back to the Restaurant Show. Very excited right now. Brand new participants in the Restaurant Show and new friends of mine, especially from Hops House Eatery and Pub. We have Dan and Taylor. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having us.
And I'm excited because they have fantastic food. And we're going to start with a little bit of a mix, not your traditional jambalaya, but something you put together. So Dan, talk to us a little bit about what you got.
Well, what we have here is jambalaya etouffee, and it's kind of a combination of jambalaya and etouffee, two of my favorite dishes.
Okay.
I call it that because etouffee is literally, it translates to smothered in Creole.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a jambalaya risotto, and I smother it in all the other ingredients that would traditionally go in jambalaya, which is two proteins that I kind of switched up to my liking, and it seems to be the public's liking too.
All right.
So what we do is we make a jambalaya, which I made this morning. It's a long process.
Mm-hmm.
So I saute onions, celery, and red pepper, which is a Cajun take on the classic French mirepoix, which is called the Holy Trinity in Louisiana. We use fresh ingredients from local farms. We have some red peppers and tomatoes from Oxheart and Yesteryear Farms right in Mount Horeb.
Mm-hmm.
Some crushed tomatoes too we put in there, and that makes our jambalaya. And it when it cools down, it gets into this like thick, kind of almost like a paste.
Sure.
That you can coat, and we do a 3-step breading process.
Oh wow.
So you coat it in flour, and then you'll do just beat eggs with a little bit of cream. It's called egg wash.
Mm-hmm.
And then coat that in breadcrumbs. And it'll kind of hold its shape.
Wow.
And be ready to deep fry. So you can kind of turn anything into a good deep fried dish if you just have these three things: eggs, breadcrumbs, and flour. And our finished product is actually a little bit bigger than that, just because we like to give people a healthy portion.
All right. And that was one of the unique things with you when we initially met, is how local you guys are. You get as many ingredients as you can from the local community and be able to put your unique style and your unique blend of dishes together to support the community and also make fantastic dishes.
Yeah, we're all about the locals. We like to support our local sports, our local high schools, other local businesses, and just pretty much everyone in Dane County. If we can help them, I go to the farmer's market and get everything I can. So that is our risotto. We also put pork belly on it, which is actually what bacon comes from.
Yes.
Bacon is a cured and brined pork belly. That's a long process. We just cure this in our own house spice blend for about 4 days, and then we slow cook it at about 250 for 4 hours or so, and it gets that meat really nice and tender.
Okay.
Our pork belly actually has a little bit more meat to it than most. And instead of less of that really fatty, you want to have meat and fat to it. So with our pork belly, we slice that thin with shrimp, and here's our finished product.
So this is kind of that rice ball you're making on the bottom.
Yep.
And then the pork belly, the shrimp, and then the sauces. That's what you were talking about before.
The sauce, it has crushed tomatoes and these sautéed in it with a little bit of cream and Tabasco, some Cajun spices. So it kind of offsets that crunch of the risotto cake with the creamy sauce, and then you can cut up the meat, and the textures all combine really well.
See, I know you're a creative guy, especially when it comes to food, but this looks nothing like any sort of jambalaya I've ever had. Where does that come from, or what makes that?
I was working on it for a long time. I just wanted to do something different, and I kind of deconstructed it into the two proteins, like a creamier sauce, and then the risotto. And I worked with some risotto cakes at former restaurants and curing pork belly, and I just kind of fell in love with it, took it apart and put it back together, and it looked great and tasted great too, so we rolled with it.
All right, so I now have my dinner for the night, and I want a drink to go along with it. So Taylor, who's kind of running the bar and things over there, talk to us what we have here today. I see Corbel.
Right.
So I'm going to go with, we're probably going to do something similar to an old-fashioned.
Definitely.
All right.
We call it our hops fashioned. It's a little bit of a different take. I'm just going to slide this out of the way.
Of course it's a different take. You
right.
guys
Well, of course. I mean, we have to, and my whole idea is, obviously in Wisconsin, brandy old fashions kind of the popular,
of course,
the most popular way to have an old fashioned, of course. However, I know I'm from Wisconsin, but I do prefer mine bourbon old fashions.
All right.
Not that I don't like brandy old fashions, but I like mine with a little bit of
Just
bourbon.
your preference.
Right. But also we want to bring a little bit of beer into it as well. And we
right.
have a bourbon barrel aged ale.
Oh, boy.
So I had a little thought and maybe throwing that in there. So we'll get this together here for you. First, we're going to start with a little bit of sugar. However, instead of using white sugar, I've seen a lot made with white sugar, I chose to go with brown sugar. This was some advice I've been given from some people that I know that drink a lot of old fashions in Wisconsin. So I went with this. We'll go a little bit more in there.
So you really, to make this creation, you took what most people consider their favorite and took what you consider yours and blended the two.
Little bit of advice. I've been working on it for a few years. Obviously, an old fashioned is just such a popular drink, and I enjoy it so much, and so do other people. But it took me a little bit to perfect this way to do it.
Understood.
And then a little bit of bitters. These bitters are actually made in Milwaukee. Which is really cool. So, electing to go with something from Wisconsin instead of somewhere else or anything else. So we'll start with that, throw in our orange and our cherry. To get everything mixed up a little bit, I like to throw in the brandy right away.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? So we'll get this in here. All right. That way it's a little bit easier for me to get that sugar kind of dissolved in there, because that's my main idea, is to get kind of everything melded together right away.
See, that's why I can tell you're a pro, though. You got to look at the bartender's muddling skills. If they're good at muddling,
right.
you got yourself a good bartender.
Oh, I guess you could say that. I don't know. All right. So we'll get that out of there, and then I throw the ice in.
All right.
The reason why I do that afterwards is because everything that's muddled in the bottom,
Sure.
I want it to stay in the bottom. I don't want it to be floating on the top or anything else. I know I'm going to spill ice all over the place.
Little working conditions.
Yeah, that's all right.
Normally it's the two of them. Now they got a TV
Right,
host in
right,
here.
right,
It makes
right.
it difficult.
Of course. So then we'll throw in a little bit of that Kentucky bourbon ale. However, we normally have this on tap because we do have 24 tap beers. Whoa, getting a little excited over here.
So 24 tap beers.
24 tap beers.
So
yes.
obviously beer is an important part, as it is called Hops House, and we know that's obviously in homage to Chris and her name too, but on the
Of
same
course,
end,
of course.
beer's all over the place, and it's always interchanging. So there's 24 on tap, and that's just on tap, not counting the bottles.
That is just in tap. We do keep a bottle selection as well. Just kind of those things, because I seem to not be able to get everything I want with 24 tap still, which is surprising. But I like to mix it up. So my goal has been to switch out about 4 to 5 a week, kind of get something new in there all the time, especially when those seasonals come into town and everything else. And so far we've been on pace the last couple of weeks,
nice.
so
So-
that's always exciting.
That is our Hops Fashion. Hops
Yes.
Fashion and the Jambalaya I can't pronounce it.
Etouffee.
Jambalaya Etouffee and the Hops Fashion. Now, let everyone know where you guys are located, because you are new, so we might not know exactly, and you got to check them out up in Mount Horeb. What's the address?
The address is 209 East Main Street in Mount Horeb. And you got to go all the way back down the hallway to find us. We're a little hidden, but we're a treasure. So.
It's worth it once you get there. I can speak firsthand. The food's amazing, the drinks are great, and the people are some of the nicest I've encountered doing this show. So please give them a try. We're going to have them back on the restaurant show in just a couple weeks. This is their first go-around. They did a fantastic job. Check them out in Mount Horeb. It is Hops House, Eatery, and Pub. We'll be back to more of the restaurant show in just a moment.